not permissive of feeling optimal if I'm eating something that's going to make me feel bloated. I mean, I think that give me like 3 or 4 days and I can realize there's a problem. Stephen, did you pick up any new activities shortly after going vegan?
I don't know that I did, other than perhaps cooking. I was never really a chef. My mother was the chef, and she always was a good cook and loved sweets. She was a good cook in that way. But I certainly have started to make a lot of my own things, from my own cheeses to which are vegan and plant-based, cashew or almond-based in that, to different kind of stir fries, a lot of different ethnic foods that I clearly eat, and I probably have more of a variety than most people when it comes to cooking. And people often don't know how to cook vegan, but it's so simple out there these days that whereas years ago it was much harder perhaps. But
the staples like the rice and beans,
and sometimes I have 4 ingredients in the fridge and I just Google vegan with those 4 ingredients. Google is your friend, by the way.
Oh, absolutely.
And it will come up with a recipe.
There are so many foods that, I'll, once a week or every 2 weeks, me and my mother will go down to Green Kitchen. And she loves the food there. And, she always goes, oh, Anne-Marie, I wouldn't be able to tell. And, well, a lot of the foods you wouldn't be able to tell.
And absolutely. I mean, the Green Kitchen is a great example. And they got great, like, cauliflower wings, different kinds of
Their nachos
bowls.
are unbelievable.
Their nachos are great.
Pulled jackfruit.
Jackfruit and olives and salsa on it. And there's a great combination.
So, Murray, I would like to come back to health and initial transition. How long have you been vegan?
I've been vegan 5 years, but now I was vegetarian for many years prior to that, because, myself and Stephen have been together for more than 30 years, and he was vegan then. And I understood, the health benefits of being vegan, and I appreciated that, and I believed in that, but, it didn't resonate with me in terms of me being vegan. So honestly, it was many years later, only 5 years ago, when I was, watching a video on social media about the slaughter of cows. I watched it, and it was so horrific to me. I was just, on my knees, basically. I was so devastated by the cruelty to the animals. So I went vegan for ethical reasons. And after I checked about, the cows, how cows are treated, then I checked about chickens. I had to know everything then. So, and then I moved on to, all the other animals, and everything was so horrifically cruel that I swore off, I'll never touch another animal product again, and I haven't since. So.
I find that a lot of people think, well, eliminating meat, that's the big deal, and that that the dairy industry, that's a lesser evil. But when you learn, it's like, I think that's the most horrific part.
Me too, and eggs. I mean, dairy is very, very cruel, and a lot of people don't understand that mothers have to be separated from their babies, and that they're spent after about 5 years, and they have to be slaughtered too. And of course, the female babies, go on to be dairy slaves again, and then the males are raised for just a few weeks, or sometimes they're slaughtered right away, or like I said, raised for a few weeks for veal. And a lot of people don't understand that, so they think, it's a happy cow. The pictures we have are happy cows in the field, type thing, enjoying their life. It's not like that. Most cows never see the light of day. On these factory farms, and they live in their own excrement. It's absolutely horrific, And same thing with the egg industry. It's equally cruel.
The things that I learned, even just since learning a bit about the activism side and what people are, the message people are getting out here in St. John's alone, things that I just didn't think, not that I didn't think they were possible, but I didn't think that people could be quite that, not just cruel, but thoughtless. I think that we really, we like to get rid of this notion that animals have, the level of cognition that we have. And perhaps they are not, entirely at that level, but they have the ability to feel so much more than we give them credit for. And you can just look at, these videos, I'm sure you've seen them, of, like sibling animals who were separated who, are reunited later, and you see their response to that. And how are these creatures not able to recognize that or feel that? You can see it right there. So I think that we strip all of these things away from what we perceive their level of cognitive ability to be, just to make us feel better. A lot of this is just to make us feel better.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's not about, how intelligent animals are.
No.
Or even how they're treated, really. It's the fact that we use them at all. We don't own them. They're not ours to use. And that's something we should understand. We evolved there with them, and they're not for us to use. And I think that's the ultimate question. And in terms of, the welfare of the animals, I mean, the thing that we have to be concerned about is, do they feel pain? That's the question. Mm-hmm. Do they feel pain?
That's the argument people make about fish all the time.
Yeah.
And they always say, well, fish don't feel pain, it's different. And, my question all the time is okay, I would like to believe you and be like, okay, great, seafood tastes great, whatever. I'd like to just go with that. But at the back of my mind is always, so how do you know that?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're all animals. We all have a brain, a central nervous system, type thing. We have the same capacity to feel pain because of that. So, and that's what differentiates us, the animals, from the plants. Plants don't have that capacity to feel pain because they don't have that. And lots of people will use that argument. Plants feel pain too. But no, there's absolutely no scientific evidence to indicate that plants feel pain. And as a matter of fact, as we know that animals have a brain and a central nervous system, so therefore we can assume they feel pain just as we do, maybe even more so.
We've done so much research on animals, it's not like we don't have the data.
Right, exactly.
Most research in most fields relies on animal evidence. There are things that we've gleaned from that, but you do have to look at the cost.
Yeah, and not a lot of this research is transferable on animals is transferable to humans either.
Yeah.
That's another point.
I mean, our structures are just so different that we can't apply. People always use rats because, I guess it's cheap and, sustainable, but how many similarities do humans have with rats? Not very many.
Not very many, no. And that's why I don't think a lot of it is transferable to humans. So, I mean, why put these animals through this horrific suffering, type thing, when we're not really going to benefit much from it? A lot of these studies are done over and over, too.
It's true.
Type thing. They've been done, and then they want to redo them, type thing. And I don't understand why, we can just cut that short when it's not necessary.
It's true. To an extent, yes, we have we have falsifiable hypotheses that we do want to try to falsify to an extent, and then we have to peer review things and all of that. But once we've really banged that point home, there's no need to reinvent the wheel again and again.
That's right.
I will say the one rat study that I am very grateful for, and probably always will be, is one that converted many people to veganism, which is the precursor of the China study mentioned in the book, the China study, which is the rat study on casein. I think that many health vegans were inspired by that study.
Yes, absolutely.
And the cancer incidents that originate from that protein. And that was a big thing for me. And as I've said to many people in the past, my father died of cancer, and he was on and off a very health conscious person. He had a bit of extra weight on here and there, but he was a runner. And, he would, whenever he would try to lose weight, he would go on these salad-only diets. He never smoked, he never drank, not a day in his life. But also consuming this Newfoundland diet. And a lot of that being red meat, salt fish. I think about the salads that he would have when he would be on these health kicks. They were always egg salads. Always. Lean protein. And all of that, but I think to myself often that between dairy and eggs and meat, there are just so many sources of potentially carcinogenic substances that you're taking in. And if you do that over the course of a lifetime, compared to those who stop that at 20, 25, 30, and you have another, 40 plus years without that, my God, the differences must be astounding. So when I watched my father go through that, especially at the end, it took a few months to start reflecting on that. But at the end of it all, maybe about, 6 months into it, my new thought was, okay, how can I do the best I can to make sure that this never happens to me. And it may. I say to people all the time, I with this diet that I consume and this lifestyle I live, I could live to be 80 years old, or I could get hit by a bus tomorrow and die. Either way, it doesn't really matter to me, because I want to feel that I'm doing the best for myself right now and in the future. And as you've said, Stephen, with, the improvement of your energy levels and your physical abilities, I don't think, this idea of living a good time or a long time, you can have both. You can live for, you can have a good time and a long time.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Hopefully we all will.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah, I wonder if you mind if I went back to the study you mentioned from the China study.
Yes, please. I love that study.
Yeah, because I did take a note on that, because I know I was affected by that too. And it was a very comprehensive study involving thousands of people in China from various provinces who, and these different populations ate various amounts of animal proteins.
Before we do get into that, because this is going to be a passionate conversation, I can already tell, I'm going to take our second and final break of the hour, as I just can't bear to interrupt this. So stay tuned. Annie Gets Healthy. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Annie Gets Healthy. I've been here today talking with Stephen Power and Murray Noseworthy on the benefits of adopting a vegan diet. Right before the break, we were about to, me and Murray were about to get into talking about the China study, a fantastic longitudinal study that studied many areas of China, that some that consume meat and dairy, some that do not, and the rates of many diseases that we find in Western society. So, Murray, you brought some notes. Let's just jump right into it.
Yeah, the China study, like I said, was a very comprehensive study and involving thousands of people, the most comprehensive study on the effects of eating animal products and cancer ever conducted. And but you mentioned earlier about animal testing, and one test was a study by Dr. Esselstyn, who fed half of a group of rats a diet of 20% casein, and the main protein in dairy products. The other half were fed a diet of only 5% casein. During the 12-week study, the rats fed the 20% casein diet had a greatly enhanced instance of liver cancer tumor growth. On the other hand, all the rats fed the 5% protein diet had no instance whatsoever of cancer. He also found that cancer growth could be turned on or off by increasing and decreasing the amount of protein. So he alternately fed 20% protein, and the tumor growth would skyrocket, and he would decrease it to 5%, and it would drop off again immediately.
In the stages of cancer development, once you have that initiation, it's not that it goes straight from initiation to uncontrollable tumor. While we can't reverse initiation, we certainly can slow or stop that progress.
Right, that's the key. It can be turned on,
right,
or off. And the other thing is the 5 to 20% levels that he used in the study are within our own levels of experience. This is the kind of levels that we eat when we eat dairy and animal products. So the doctor found that 20% of the diet of plant protein from soybeans and wheat did not have the same cancer-promoting effect. So even though he fed the same amount of protein from wheat and soy, it didn't have the same effect as animal protein.
Yeah, I think that so many people have taken that study, not reading it the whole way through, and go, protein is the problem. People eat too much protein, low protein diet. Okay, I don't agree with that. I think that the animal protein is the problem. There's so much room to have positive protein that won't affect that growth after initiation.
Exactly. I mean, all plants have protein.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just animal products. If you take a plant food, for instance, which has the least amount of protein in it, like potato and rice, which has about 8 to 9% protein, that's the level basically that we need as humans. We need that lower level, between 8 and 9% of our protein content.
Many studies at the turn of the century were found to really dramatically, they noticed that we don't need that much protein, but they would always recommend more than the study found. In a similar way to what we do with vitamins these days. Take B12, for example. We need, 2.5 a day? And if you go to buy a supplement, it's like 1,500, 2,000. We always say that, we have a good thing, and so we prescribe more. And protein, I think, is the ultimate thing like that. Now, once again, if you're engaged in athletics and you want to, to be permissive of muscle hypertrophy, yeah, you're going to need more protein. But you need to get that from a plant-based source.
Absolutely. It's funny, people do ask us, first thing people
where do
ask
you get your protein?
Where do you get your protein?
Well, I want to say back to them, Have you ever met somebody in North America, for instance, with a protein deficiency?
It's true.
It's true. Like
I've never heard of it.
It's a false question. I mean, I've been vegan over 30 years, and I've never had an issue with protein because your green leafy vegetables and your beans and everything.
Same goes to iron.
Have plenty of. Same goes to iron. Absolutely.
That's the first thing people get is you're going to get iron deficiency. Well, you know what? I had an iron deficiency when I